From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on the belief model. You've heard me say over and over again, belief drives behavior. And I wanted to drill down into that just a little bit in what I call the belief model. Belief is an acronym or acrostic that where each letter of a word stands for something. When you put them together, it makes up a word. So belief stands for behaviors, emotions, limiting beliefs, impact, environment, and fruit or frustration. So that last one's a little bit of a double a double letter there, I guess it could be, or stands for either or. How about that? So the way I think about this is our behaviors are based on our emotions, which come from limiting beliefs. They impact our internal and external environment, creating either fruit or frustration in our lives. So we drill down into that. The things that we do or don't do, the behaviors, our choices, our actions, our habits, our behaviors are stemming from our emotions. And the underlying foundation for those emotions are the limiting beliefs that we have. And I'll drill down into that in just a minute. But there's no doubt, right? Our behaviors are impacting our internal and our external environment. The things that we do are shaping, impacting, and influencing to some degree internal and external environment. And that creates either fruit or frustration in our lives, right? So when our behaviors and our values line up with our goals and our values, then behaviors can create fruit. They can bring success. They can help us move closer to the things that we want in life. And if they're not in alignment, if there's a dissonance there or a disalignment, then it can create frustration in our lives. So, drilling down into that, where our behaviors are coming from our emotions, but our emotions are coming from our limiting beliefs. And here's the thing. Our limiting beliefs to some degree limit us because number one, sometimes we're not aware of them at all, right? A lot of times the limiting beliefs that we have are limiting us because we're not even conscious of them. These are beliefs that we have about ourselves or about the world, our paradigm of how the world works. And these, to some degree, have been shaped over the years by different forces. Certainly the environment you grow up in can shape how you think, what you think, the limiting beliefs you have about yourself or others or relationships. If you grew up with an unhealthy model in your parents' relationship, for example, it's quite possible that that has influenced or impacted the way you see a spousal relationship today, either positively or negatively, right? Sometimes those things that we see growing up influence us, but they influence us in the opposite direction, right? Sometimes we see a poor role model and we think, oh, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be the opposite of that. But just being conscious of where our beliefs and our emotions and our thoughts are coming from to begin with. And certainly, environment can impact and influence us. Now, it doesn't define us, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. But certainly, the environment that we grow in can shape us to some degree or to a large degree. It certainly just is an opinion of how much and how much of an impact it can have on us. The other people around us, right? We form a large sense of ourself based on the social influences that we have, particularly growing up. That's why we turn to, peer relationships or friendships as we get a little, into our teenage years, because we're looking for some of those different social influences us, right? We've had models from parents or grandparents or coaches or teachers. And yet, as we start to become a little more of forming our identity in a teenage years, we start to look for different influences and different social influences on that identity. And a lot of times we get that from our peers, particularly at that age, positive or negative. There again, these influences can impact us in good ways. They can also impact us in bad ways. So, when it is our environment or our social relationships growing up, we often don't realize how deep seated those beliefs can be, how deeply rooted into our core identity. So, for example, if you grew up, all through, let's say, through age 10, and every time you went to grandma's house, grandma got onto you and scolded you for not cleaning your plate and talked about, oh, you've got to clean your plate. There are children who are starving halfway across the world. You should just be grateful you have food to eat and make sure you eat everything that's on your plate. And that was kind of your model, right, that you internalized growing up. But then you become an adult and you might go to a restaurant and the portions are 3 times the size that they should be. It doesn't necessarily serve you well to clean your plate. There might be times when you don't need to eat everything on your plate, or if you do always eat everything that's on the plate, you end up getting too many calories or too much bad for you food that might taste good, but doesn't serve you, and then it makes you overeat and gain weight, right? And that's just one example of how an early influence can impact us, and we adopt that behavior and internalize it into a behavioral pattern that doesn't serve us later in life. And I guarantee you, each of us, all of us, have habit patterns and behaviors that are firmly rooted in that, in ourselves, that maybe they did serve us at one time, maybe they didn't, but they probably don't serve you forever. The problem is that if you're not aware of them, if you're not conscious about them, then it's really difficult to change them. Number one, it's really difficult to defend against them. I like to think of this as the program, the autopilot program that your brain has come up with. And all of the influences that we encounter can impact this program. They can help us write the program. But it's up to us to realize that we can rewrite the program. If the program is not getting us the results that we want in life, then we can rewrite it. We are the only ones in control of that. No one else has as much influence in your life today as you do. Regardless of what's impacted you in the past, it's not about blaming our parents or our grandparents, nature or nurture or genetics or DNA or adversity and childhood experiences. It's not about blaming those things. It's about taking responsibility for today and what you can change. That's what's going to help you adopt a success model when it comes to changing the autopilot of your behaviors and your choices and your habits, your responses. A lot of those things are subconscious. You're not even aware of a lot of them. But you can change them. But the first step is to become aware of them. And are they serving you or how they are not serving you, right? The first step to changing that is becoming aware of it. So you have to really drill down. And this comes out in so many different ways. Have you ever caught yourself responding to someone and before you even open your mouth, you're like, this remark or this, response is not going to help the situation. It's not going to improve it if I lose my temper and I get mad at someone or something that's happening. Like that doesn't help. That doesn't fix anything. And we know that. But we maybe in the past we've had a pattern of blowing up and losing our temper. And even though we know intuitively that that's not going to help us, we have that pattern, that program, if you want to call it, in our subconscious. And so unless we're aware of it and conscious about changing it, rewriting it, reprogramming it, it's going to not serve us well. It's going to continue to not serve us well. So maybe that's the struggle you're having, or maybe your other choices or habits. Sometimes we think of habits of things like what we eat or do we watch TV at night? And sure, those are habits, but we also have emotional habits like how we respond to people, How do we respond when someone snaps at us, when they lose their temper at us? How we respond can be as much of an ingrained habit as what we're what we're binge watching on Netflix. Or maybe, any response that we have to adversity or confrontation or stress, or what's our automatic response when it's pouring rain outside? Or what's your automatic response when it's beautiful outside? Absolutely, we can choose our response, but first we have to be aware of the automatic responses that are there, the program that is there already, and then we can just reprogram it. Now, easier said than done, but why is all this important? I think the reason that this is important, number one, is when you think about this, think about the ingredients or the recipe to what you want out of life, whether it's career or relationships or start your own business or improve your health, whatever it is. What are the ingredients that are going to go into that? What is the recipe for success relative to this area of your life? Because see, awareness increases opportunity. Because every choice that we make, emotionally, physically, behaviorally, every single moment can be a defining moment. And it's either taking you closer toward the direction you want to go or further away. It's like every single moment of your life can be a crossroads, right or left, or straight towards your goal or straight away from your goal. Because every choice is either defining you and taking you closer, or it's destructive and pulling you the wrong way relative to where you want to go. So when you become aware of how many decision points there are, that awareness increases the opportunity to make better choices at those decision points. So our conscious mind can rewrite the program of our subconscious, but we have to be aware of what are the triggers that are triggering that autopilot, that automatic response, that behavior that we might not even be thinking about, right? We have to be aware of that, be aware of the habit or the response or the program that's hardwired in our subconscious to begin with, and then we can start to be aware of the opportunities to change it. And that allows us to get off of autopilot when it comes to life. And the beautiful thing about that is that allows us to, once we figure out the recipe, the ingredients for our success story, then we can simply create it, because now we're aware of how easy it becomes to achieve that goal. But it doesn't happen by accident, right? And, as I record this, we're just about to be in October. And, in just a couple months, New Year's is going to come right around the corner. And so many people are going to set a New Year's resolution for what they want to do, be, and have in 2023. How life is going to be different. But just setting the goal is not enough. That's the easy part. That's the easy part, really. It's easy to set the goal. The work comes in achieving it. But once you figure out the ingredients for success, then it's much easier to do that, because you're creating a system to be successful, right? But it does start with belief, because your beliefs are driving your behaviors positively or negatively. Guarantee you, in ways you are not even conscious of. I guarantee you. And those things might be serving you. Maybe they served you at one time and they no longer serve you. I don't know. I can't decide that, but you can. But you do have to start with just some reflection. And maybe you've heard the term, it's kind of a big word, but there's a term called neuroplasticity. And basically what that means is you can change your brain. I mean, like, I can't tell you all of the science, but there's a whole bunch of science that talks about when we think or focus on positive things or what we can control, what is in our ability to change, then we can build stronger connections in our brain that help us create more hardwires for success, right? We build stronger connections and we build better connections that help us stay more positive when we focus on positive things. You've heard one of my favorite quotes from Oprah Winfrey is, "What we focus on expands." And that's absolutely true, because what we focus on, we train our brain to focus on that, and we start to grow more brain cells that help us focus on that and continue to focus on that. It's sort of like the mind muscle. And just like our physical muscles, your biceps get stronger when you pick up heavier things and curl them. Your mind muscles can grow in much the same way when you work them and exercise them towards what you want, what you want to develop them, right? So it's interesting because, most of our other organs don't really change or grow a whole lot once you reach adulthood. In fact, by that point, a lot of times they're just deteriorating, especially if we're not taking care of them. But our brain can continue to grow and it can continue to change because we can continue to develop it. Now, there again, it's not going to happen automatically. The things that help our brain build new connections and grow new neurons and synapses and all of those fancy science words it comes with using it, right? That's why, like kids, when they're growing, they're learning so much, they're using their brain, and their brain is growing. They're forming so many new connections and thought processes in their brain, and it takes a lot of energy, but they're learning at a tremendous rate. But a lot of times as we get to adulthood, we quit learning, right? And that's when we quit growing figuratively and literally. And when we quit growing, we're not moving forward in life. We're moving backwards because status quo is not an option. So don't settle for it because there's really no such thing as status quo because the world is changing around us. And we are required to grow and change if we want to continue to be successful. So that's why it helps us to learn new skills or read something new that changes the way we see things. You can just learning a new language can help, help your brain grow and develop and help it stay in that growth environment, that growth pattern, if you will. So that's why it's one of the things that's so critical to continually be focused on our growth. Not, once a year you go to a conference and you grow, I grow a little bit, I go to a conference once a year. Well, maybe, but the benefits to helping your brain develop in a way that's going to help you be successful and reach the things that you want in life is a little bit of growth every day. It's kind of like a plant. You can water it every single day and help it grow and be alive. But if you only water it once a year, your plant's going to dry up and wither away, right? So if you only help your brain grow once a year, it's not growing very much. But if you help it grow a little bit every single day, that's the thing that nourishes us and helps us continue to develop that most precious thing, right? Our mind is the most precious asset because it empowers us there again to go after what we want. But we have to create the habits, behaviors, the choices, the actions that are going to move us closer in the right direction. So there you have it. That's some of my thoughts on the belief model and why it's so important to think about what are our beliefs? How are they showing up in patterns in our lives? And notice those patterns. Again, positive or negative. How are they serving you? Where are they showing up in your lives in ways that you don't want them to? Where are they showing up in your life in ways that you do want them to? And let's cultivate more of those. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.